The following podcast is proudly brought to you by Repco, driven by passion for 100 years.
Greg Murphy. In his words, there's never been a better feeling than what he did on the mountain in the qualifying.
Third to fourth, this is the run to repark. He's up, and look at the split. It's awesome. 0.4 of a second for Greg Murphy. Every millimetre of road on the run to Forest Elbow. Second split's critical. He's up nearly 0.7. An awesome time so far from Murphy.
He has released the shackles on car 51, and he is going straight to pole position for the Bob Jane T-Marts 1000. Murphy, a blistering lap.
Hi everyone, and welcome to Repco Supercars Rewind, the pod that celebrates the sport's most amazing moments. And what a treat we have for you today. Greg Murphy's pole lap in the 2003 Top 10 Shootout has become a thing of legend, and could arguably be called the biggest ever moment to happen outside of the actual great race. Coming off the back of a ferocious Friday qualifying session where the top three cars were separated by just 44 thousandths of a second, the stage was set for an epic, potentially record-breaking shootout. And after teams had only just broke through the 2-minute 7-second barrier earlier in the weekend, a 2:06 was not even remotely a consideration for a potential pole time. But Murph achieved exactly that, an impossibly quick lap that was worthy of the title, Lap of the Gods. Ahead of his return to Mount Panorama in the Boost Mobile wildcard entry in this year's Repco Bathurst 1000, the Kiwi legend sat down to discuss that incredible day. He spoke in great detail about the lead up to that amazing lap, the mindset he was in as he rolled out of pit lane, and how the lap incredibly could have been even faster. He even pondered the possibility that this could still be his quickest ever lap around the mountain in a supercar, a barrier that could finally be broken after 19 years. So crank it up and go back in time with me to the year 2003 as we remember Greg Murphy's Lap of the Gods on Repco Supercars Rewind.
The clock will start ticking on our first man out in the shootout. We're underway for 2003 in the chase for pole position at the Bob Jane T-Marts 1000.
Let's turn back the clock, Murph, to the year 2003. And I just want to know what the lead up to that event was like, because for your team coming off the disappointment of 2002, I imagine there would have been plenty of motivation.
There was, but it wasn't really discussed. It was more subliminal in the sort of back of everyone's minds, I think. We didn't really talk about it from memory. We'd had a pretty good year again. 2003 was a pretty strong year. Obviously, Rick came to the team, replaced his brother in 2003, and you know there'd been some strong results again. You know, we were floating around the front end of the championship, and it was. You know, it was a pretty strong sort of season, reasonably competitive, and so I think, you know, that was more the focus, and we were thinking more about championship and everything, and so it wasn't in the forefront of our minds. I mean, it did get brought up when we arrived at Bathurst with Gerald McDornan had got the old Portaloo put on wheels and liveried up, and that became a media stunt, and it was a good laugh. You know, it was actually a light-hearted way to probably deal with what happened in 2002.
It's sort of funny to look back at it, and maybe in hindsight it is easy to pick it, but did you feel like anything extraordinary was going to happen that weekend? No, I didn't. I think we all knew that we were going to be competitive because it had become you know, something that had happened with Kmart Racing, obviously in 2001 and 2002. We were very competitive. You know, we're right up there with the chance with the best of them. So I think we just expected that we'd be competitive again. You know, it's in 2003, and you know, everything had gone to plan pretty well in the lead up, and you know, we knew our gear was good, and you know, Rick and I certainly had huge amounts of confidence in Rick. I thought he, you know, was a star of the future, and you know, we had a great relationship too, he and I. A very different one to him and his brother. You know, Rick and I are definitely quite close in comparison to the way Todd and I were. Todd, you know, they're very different people, very different personalities, and I think Rick and I, you know, certainly gelled better.
and we enjoyed each other's company, and it was fun. You know, we enjoyed going racing and being teammates.
Talk us through the practice sessions and what it was like getting a handle on the car with Eric Pender, your then engineer. Because from memory, it sounded like you guys didn't have to do much to it to get it to where it was. An absolute bullet all weekend.
Pretty much. You know, I had a great relationship. I mean, I really enjoyed our relationship together. Eric, I hopefully will, when you speak to him, will, you know, tell you the exact truth from his perspective. I mean, definitely mutual respect, but, you know, I was probably, you know, I know I was a bit of a challenge at times to work with, without question. So it'd be cool to get his, you know, real honest perspective on that. Because I'm, you know, big enough and ugly enough to handle that kind of thing these days. But we had a great relationship. It was one of those arrangements where he very much understood, you know, my vocabulary on you know, how I explained things with the car, and you know, we did have a very good connect between driver engineer, and those, you know, one of those special ones that is a little bit unspoken almost in some respects. He knew exactly what I wanted and what I needed, and understood that, and you know, I understood his, you know, his language as well, and you know, so we did have a really cool relationship in that respect, and which made life pretty easy. Not easy obviously when things aren't going well, but you know, there was which happens, but without doubt, you know, he knew what I needed in a car to get the best out of it. And we rocked up there, and remember, that's you know, that was blueprint sort of year. Our car was a hybrid car. I've been running you know, a VZ, hadn't I, for VZ? No, V, was it? God, now I can't even remember.
VY maybe, or
no, that was a VY, wasn't it? Our car was the car we took to Bathurst was a VY, which was the first of. God, now I can't even bloody remember that. Anyway, you'll have to do your homework on that one.
Right.
Yeah, so ours was a hybrid.
already put out a pod about the car, so that's fine.
Yeah, so ours was a car that was modified. It wasn't a new build chassis. It was a modified chassis to take the AA arm front end. Yep. And we had now I can't even remember if we ran it. We must have run it maybe at Sandown or something before that. Potentially,
it debuted at Oran Park, I think.
Right.
It's the first time you ran in it.
Yep.
And it was quick straight away.
Straight away.
Yeah, just didn't have great tyre life to begin with.
Yep. So, you know, it was one of those cars, but we, you know, I think we're starting to get a handle on it, and then we rocked up there, and it's just one of those situations where it comes out of the truck, and we talk about that a lot. You know, we talk about that a lot in supercars. It's have done for decades. Is like, you know, some days you roll the car out of the truck and you put it on the racetrack and you drive out, and it's like it's perfect, and it was pretty well perfect. I mean, I think over the you know, the practice sessions, you know, there was maybe one spring change in the rear, and it was to you know, see what it was like see if we could make it better on full tanks. And I think we went back on the change, like we went back to what we had in the car from setup. And there might have been a couple of the minor little tweaks to it, but basically, you know, fastest in the first session, fastest in the second session, I think. And you know, I was just wanting to hand the car over to Rick and give him as many miles as possible, and he was really comfortable. And it just kept going from there, you know. And I remember thinking at the time, I was like, oh, this is all just a little bit too easy, you know. It's like, what are we missing? You know, what should we be doing? I felt like we should have been doing more work, but we just kept going faster every session, and still without any, you know, need for adjustment, or, you know, the balance of the car just remained. The harder you pushed it, it didn't start, you know, requiring anything or anything different. So it was just it was bizarre. It was really bizarre. And you know, I never really thought about it at the time, I don't think, but you know, I was super focused, you know, and I think that 12-month, you know, well, what happened 12 months earlier was definitely, you know, a driving factor somewhere in the back of my brain somewhere, you know, that just, you know, I was determined and wanted to prove a point, I suppose. But I wasn't really thinking about it that way. I wasn't prepared because of that, and going, I'm gonna show you, you know, I'm gonna, you know, going to get back at what happened last year or anything like that. It wasn't like a revenge thing, but maybe it was subliminally in the back of my head.
Is it rare to get a car that good?
Yeah, I think so, unless you're Shane Van Gisbergen and Scott McLaughlin. I mean, there's obviously other examples of and you know, I would say a lot of drivers got examples of when they've rolled a car out and felt the similar situation. I don't think it happens necessarily at Bathurst every time, albeit you know, thinking about last year with Chaz and Lee Holdsworth and their WAU car. I mean, that thing was pretty special, and I think they knew it from day dot too. So that might be another, you know, a recent example of you know, putting a car on a racetrack and going, whoa, we've got something pretty awesome here. But it's well, you want reference to it. 12 months later, we turned up in 2004, and I just assumed it was going to be the same. I just assumed I was going to go and do the same thing again. I think I turned up there with this attitude like, wow, last year, well, we're on, you know. We did end up winning it, but didn't have that dominance, you know. And I was actually trying probably too hard 12 months later, whereas in 2003, I didn't even feel like I was trying. So there's a big difference.
Scaife, Ambrose, the other guys haven't managed to do it. Now, Greg Murphy. In his words, there's never been a better feeling than what he did on the mountain in the qualifying, when he posted a 2:07.95. A two-time winner here in 1996 with Craig Lowndes, in 1999 with Stephen Richards. It's a mammoth job ahead of him, because that time of John Bowes will look as big as the mountain he's about to try and tame.
Qualifying rolls around and it's close, so 44 thousandths of a second, just about covering the top three, and big numbers into the 207s, which was sort of unheralded at that point. What was the feeling like on Friday when you rolled the thing back into the garage?
Yeah, like excitement. I mean, it was a thrilling session. I think I've spoken to you before about how qualifying in the shootout for me always broke the weekends down. You know, these were significant moments that you are there to make the most of, and so qualifying was always so exciting, and I didn't always get to do all this, you know, do the qualifying sessions. I mean, it was, you know, depending on who you're driving with and what your role was and bits and pieces. But in 03, clearly it was my job, and you know, it was a super exciting session. I think you know, I think we might have been. I think we were fastest before it rained. So we actually had a shower of rain come across, and I'm pretty sure I was quickest when that happened. Long session back then. It might have been an hour and a half or something. It was like a very long session. And then we had a shower of rain come through, and jumped out of the car. Really thought that was going to be the end of it. I thought it was going to, you know, finish off the session, and I'm, you know, 99.9% positive we were quickest at that point. But then it started to dry up, and the sun came back out, and it was like there was still a bit of time left, and cars started to go back out on track. So it was like, oh, we better, you know, get ready here. And you know, some time started to come in, and it was pretty fast, and so we had to have another go at it. And you know, I didn't know at the time, but you know, Bowie and Scaife had done sevens, and I was the last car across the finish line at the end of the session with the checkered flag out, to be the third car to do a seven, as you say, separated by nothing, by absolutely nothing. And that was an exciting session, you know. I remember it's just like, man, I was pumped, absolutely pumped, because pressure was on, you know. I had to get the job done, and you know, and it happened, and we were in the sevens. It's like, as you said, it's like, oh, wow, that's pretty epic, you know. I think we were all, you know, sort of walking around going, how good's that? You know, that's amazing. You know, not really overly concerned about where we were on the list because we were in the shootout, you know, but it was certainly a mental thing that you were at the top of the timesheet, and yeah, like, man, this is a shift in history. We're hitting a 7 as being the time that you're doing. I mean, I think I'd done a low 8, you know, in practice or in the build up. So, you know, it was still fast, but you know, break into the 7s for the first time was a big deal.
You get around Saturday morning. Do you get another session in before the shootout? Yeah. And did you do a little simulation in that run?
Yep. we had the morning session, and I think we just went through a bit of a program, and I think we probably did some driver changes, and Rick did some more laps, and then we had a set of tyres planned, do a shootout sim, and I don't think it was that great from memory, and there was a few reasons why, but I was not concerned, and I remember Rob Crawford sort of grabbed me when I was out of the car and said, what's wrong? Is everything all right? Because I don't think we're at the top of the time sheets. And he was really concerned. I recall him, not so much Eric, I don't think, but it was more Rob, was like questioning if everything was okay with the car. Did we need to do anything, because we just expected it probably to be faster. And I remember going, no, it's good. So everything's good. It just, whatever, it didn't come together for whatever reason at the time, but I knew that it was still fine. Car was great. Hadn't changed. The balance was still exactly where it needed to be. And then we just got set up for the shootout.
The Repco Supercars Rewind Pod will be right back after these short messages.
There's a lot of history hidden at Repco, so listen up, because this ad will be gone in 30 seconds. See, some people reckon we got 10W30 in our veins, or if we look to the skyline, all we see are falcons, bluebirds and 200 bees. The truth is, we've got an unexplainable bond with motoring. Any Mark, Dick or Jamie could tell you that. So dart in store or online today for great deals. Repco, driven by passion for 100 years.
If you're loving this podcast, you should check out Supercars' other podcast offering, The Cool Down Lap. It's available the morning after each Supercars event. Super Archive is the place to enjoy all your favourite old races. It's available on the Supercars YouTube channel. Make sure you follow us on social media and stay up to date with all the latest news, exclusive video content and live timing at supercars.com. Tickets and hospitality packages are available to ensure you have the best seat in the house at your favourite track. And if you're an overseas fan of supercars, a SuperView subscription is a must for live, uninterrupted supercars action. Now, let's get back to the pod.
Did you feel any different before that shootout lap? You'd obviously been in that situation before, but knowing the sort of hot rod that you had, did you feel any extra nerves going into it?
I think the only thing I did differently, which is because I'm really mostly one of those people that's not early to get in a car. I don't like sitting in there, in a car in prep for those kinds of things for too long. I don't like being alone with my own thoughts. I'm not I don't visualise. I haven't really done that kind of stuff before. I'm not one of those people that have been trained in a way to prepare, by yourself and quiet and all that kind of stuff. I sort of usually someone that, is talking or and usually being told. I used to be, told to get in the car and get ready kind of thing. But there was a bit of a difference, and again, no idea why, but I was actually in the car quite early, and just waiting and sitting and waiting for my turn. Wasn't interested in knowing what times were. Eric doesn't. He knew that. It's just like it didn't. What does it matter? None of that. I mean, what's the point of knowing what someone else has done? The whole idea of it is to go out there and go as fast as you can, right? So knowing what someone else has done is irrelevant.
Oh, this will be a nail-biter.
It will be a pearler. 0.2 of a second underneath the time of Richards. Can he knock the Holden Racing team off the perch for now? A bit of a tail slide at the end of Murray's, and he goes straight up into the sevens. They erupt at the Aussie Mail Garage.
So when Bauer laid down an awesome lap to be top of that session before you rolled out, you had no idea what the number was that you had to go beat?
No, so I was sitting at the end of pit lane, waiting. And so Bowie was third last, right?
Yep.
So it was me last, Scafie. So Bowie I rolled up to the pit lane, switched off. Scafie was on his warm-up. Bowie was finishing. So he finished his lap, and I was at the end of the lane, and the crowd, on the outside of Howell Corner and on the inside there, erupted. So I could hear them, like it was like they were like, "Wah!" The crowd sort of erupted and clapping and cheering. I'm like, okay, well he's done a good lap, and straight away, go, well, he's fastest. because it's obvious.
Yep.
The crowd is not going to cheer like that if you're not fastest, right? So okay, so he's fastest, right? That's cool, and why wouldn't he be? You know, we were separated by, as you say, 44 hundredths or whatever it was of a second on Friday. So not unexpected. So I knew, okay, he's done a good lap. Again, didn't matter what it was. Eric didn't tell me. He knew that it was no point. So I sat there, and then obviously Scafey starts his lap and disappears up the road, and then I roll out, you know, to start mine, and that was the last comms, obviously, that I had, and off I went to do my thing. And just knew, you know, you just know what you got to do. And I was prepared at that moment to, like they all would have been, like everyone would have been, it's just how it actually plays out, prepared to put it on the line. It was like I got to brake later than I've braked, and I've got to get on the throttle earlier. I've got to hit my marks and drive it. Just drive it. And I came down, you know, I used to sort of probably start some of those things a little bit earlier than others. And I started to get into it pretty hard coming down Conrod, prepare for the chase, and, you know, arrived down into Murray's, you know, like I'm finishing a lap, really. And off I went.
So you get stuck into the lap itself. That part is obviously famous now, but can you give us any more insight into what that lap was like?
Well, it was turn one, and Eric will tell you he was listening, and he knew, and I knew, even though I, you know, again, sort of felt it, couldn't confirm it, and I never ran predictive lap. Never ran plus minus. If it was on the dash, I'd look at it and that'd be the end of it, you know. So I never ran all that, never ran it. But he will confirm and tell you that, you know, he listened and heard the throttle crack. Well, I was late. I was pretty, you know, I was as deeper than I'd ever been into the first corner, made the corner and cracked the throttle. And I think there's others also, experienced people in the lane heard it as well. I think I've heard other people say it. They heard where the throttle cracked open on the, you know, in the middle of the corner, the first corner. It was like, wow, that's early. And I felt it as being pretty early. And, you know, that just translates to speed up the straight. So the start of the lap was perfect.
You see the wheel work from Greg on the way through one there, and the car's very settled. He turns it in once. There's only a little bit of a trim of the steering wheel angle across the face of the corner, and then nails the throttle on the way out. It's a very stable motor car, 51, and it has been all weekend.
You know, I was plucking 6th gear. You don't pluck 6th gear. I mean, the diff ratios are different, of course, than what they are now. I mean, we're on the limiter for so long. Well, we 325s or something back then, I think, in the diff ratio. So, and I think they changed them pretty well straight after, or the next year maybe were different, or the year after, whatever, because we're on the limiter so long in 6th gear going in through the chase. So we're 6th gear going up Mountain Straight. I've never been, you know, I don't think I've ever used 6th gear before. Yeah, so it was a mega start to the lap.
Through the cutting.
And to reset the throttle in, you heard a little dab, tried to pick it up, had to come back out, got back on it again, squeezing, looking for every last thousandth. 3rd to 4th, this is the run to repark. He's up, and look at the split. It's awesome. 4/10 of a second for Greg Murphy.
Viewers watching and the crowd there would have seen that first sector time come up, and Crompo's immediate reaction was through the roof.
Just awesome commentary. Yeah.
Did you have any idea at that point as to what sort of lap you're on?
No. You know, I think even Crompo says maybe I was a fraction wide at the cutting, was I maybe? Or I had a reset. I think he said a reset, and I think I had a bit of a reset, but I'd carried so much corner speed. It didn't matter that I had a little bit of a fettle, but because I was travelling so fast through the corner, and it was just hooked. But no idea what it was doing, because I knew I'd carried a massive speed into Griffiths Bend. I knew I was slightly wide, but I'd picked up the throttle really early. I suppose I knew where I was shifting and looking at shift lights that it was good, but relative to time. Yeah, I'm not aware.
Gee, the car looks good, and Murphy's really ringing this thing. He is getting 11 tenths out, mistake-free so far. Every millimetre of road on the run to Forest Elbow. Second split's critical. Is it online at the elbow? A little bit wider than he would have liked, but he stays with it. I don't think it's hurt him. He's up nearly 0.7. An awesome time so far from Murphy. And the Holden fans in the background are roaring.
When you drive a lap like that where you are braking later than you'd normally brake and you're on the throttle earlier, does it ever strike you as like, how am I getting away with this corner after corner? How is it sticking?
No, I don't know. If there's any time that I was sort of hooked in a bit of a zone and in a, I don't know,
like an Ayrton Senna moment.
Yeah, if I'm ever going to claim something like that, this was probably it. You know, you're not thinking about it. One thing I did nearly do, which would have probably sent me into the fence, was because I was on the limiter coming to Skyline. For some reason, I almost went to grab fifth gear, which would have, as I said, would have ended in tears. You know, so that was a little moment, but I don't think I really referenced it or realised or thought about it. It was just like, was it nearly a natural, but then it was like, no, you know, go back to doing what you're doing. Remember, we're H-pattern gearboxes, you know. Which
is why only a couple corners later, you jammed it into the wrong one.
Yeah, and that was a moment that was like that, say, that sort of Ayrton Senna thing where it was like, you know, it was a wake up. It was like, you know, no, you know, like, what the, you know, it was such a shock because you can't, you know, you're in second gear, you come out of there, stand on it, and then just ream the bloody gear lever across the gate into third, right? And it went straight into first. And it was like, wow! And straight away clutched, grabbed second and went to third. So I couldn't go first to third, you know. So I had to release it because it's in first, so I had to clutch it, which I don't because I left foot brake. So my foot's never anywhere near the clutch. It's always near the brake. So I had to clutch it, grab second, and then straight to third. And it's not picked up on the audio or on the telecast at all. And I, you know, no, the in-car, I've never seen an in-car of it or anything, so I'm not, never heard it. But yeah, slammed it into first, and it was like, fuck, you know, and just bang bang. Luckily, I did manage to get it straight back to second, and then into third, you know, really quickly. And it was just that brief moment, but straight away I also realised, you know, chill, because the run from there to there, so the time you're on full throttle, the time between the exit of the dipper to where you get off the gas for the elbow is such a short, a short run.
If you did that coming on a Conrod,
you're done. You know, you probably lose a second. You know, and I you know, and it doesn't look like I did anything wrong, and it was a real wake up. But then I did, you know, just managed to pull it together. I could have quite easily at that point then stuffed up the elbow. And I did have a little lock, but I was deep because I went probably deep because I knew I'd lost some time. So I probably tried to roll around there or brake a little bit later, carried more speed into the elbow than what I probably would have if I'd got the dipper right. So it was a little lock, but it you know, cleared full throttle again real quick, and then wham, 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 and off she went. And so still no reference, because I say I don't get a reference, and Eric dare not mutter a word either, so he knew that.
He has released the shackles on car 51, and he is going straight to pole position for the Bob Jane T-Mart's 1000 Murphy, a blistering lap.
Holy smokes! 6.68. That's
a record breaker.
That is
Good
insane.
job, mate. Absolutely bloody fantastic.
Holy
Absolutely
smoke.
fantastic lap, mate.
Uncharted territory for anybody on the mountain. Nobody's ever gone under the sevens. Take a bow, Greg Murphy. That was something very special in the history of Bathurst.
That moment comes, you cross the line. Did you get a number on your dash at that point?
Yeah.
Could you believe your eyes?
So we had the PI dash locked, you know, built into the steering wheel back then, which I used to think was all pretty cool stuff. And you know, and then a number pops up, and I sort of look down, expecting, you know, probably similar to the day before, or hoping. And it was there's a 06.8 something, and it's, you know, it's a split second of like, what the? and then the radio just goes nuts, and then it's like, oh, it's real, you know, and then, you know, all hell breaks loose.
The Kiwi celebrates like there's no other party in the world worth being at right now than this pit lane party. The door's open. He doesn't care about regulations. The belts are off.
I tell you what, there'll be very few people in that pit lane that don't applaud this. That is an outstanding bit of driving and a beautiful motor car. A credit to Kmart Racing.
I was wondering if you would have looked at the 0.8 and gone, wicked, it was a 0.8.
Yeah, yeah.
Never mind the number
7
before it.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. I don't even know if there's a yeah, I suppose it was a 2. It must have been 2 point. It would say 2.06, whatever. It might have been 06.8. I'm not sure how we had it set up, but it was just that. It was just that momentary kind of moment of, that's, what the hell's that, you know? and then the radio's just like going nuts.
Did you hear the crowd at that point?
Yeah, yeah, it was mental, absolutely mental. And obviously you turn around and come down the pit lane, and they're just, you know, the people on the same people that were screaming and yelling when John Bauer, you know, crossed the line, you know, a few minutes earlier, were going nuts. So
was that the done thing back then, driving it Alan Kulwicki style back up pit lane?
Yeah, we that was the way it was always done. You know, you never completed another lap. You did a U-ey and you came in down the lane. Yeah. Don't know. Yeah. Don't know. It was just what it was done. It was just what was done back then.
Quickest way back to the TV team, maybe.
Yeah. How bizarre it was. But I don't. I mean, I don't know what year it changed. You know, that it went to you complete the lap afterwards.
Can you remember what was going through your mind when you were rolling back up pit lane?
Well, it quickly changed. I mean, the in-car is obviously pretty good, and Matty White's commentary is hilarious. And, you know, I don't care about regulations, you know, pulling my window net down.
Well, that was any day.
That was pretty much any day. You're exactly right.
Look at them. They've come out of the bunkers to applaud extraordinary work. Look at that. You will never see that at any other time in Australian motorsport.
Standing ovation for Greg Murphy. Quite simply, the most incredible lap you're ever going to see.
So it was all great stuff in the video, but it honestly, I mean, the crowd reaction was amazing, phenomenal. But what really sunk at home was, you know, and Crompo's commentary again is phenomenal there. You know, it's just that this wave of people coming out of the pit garages, you know, to the pit lane. You know, because if that hadn't happened, I don't think we'd be talking about it today. I think that really...
It solidified the moment.
Yeah, and that's what makes it special. So the people's reaction is what has I suppose, put it in that space in history that is special and recognised, and the reason why we're having this conversation, I believe, you know. Because if people hadn't done that and it had just, you know, rolled down the lane and gone to the team, you know, it certainly wouldn't have meant as much to me as what it did.
It's sort of like the greatest compliment I imagine you can get.
There you go. Exactly right. It is. And it doesn't happen that often, you know. We're a pretty sort of selfish kind of bunch. We don't, you know, necessarily like to appreciate other people's actions, because that's just what you are. You want to be the best, so you don't want someone else to be better, kind of thing. And accepting someone's done something great is sometimes difficult, or done something that someone's done that is like you wish you could have done, or you're envious of, kind of thing. It's, you know, that happens in the game, and that's why, you know, the best are the best, because they don't like being on the second step. You want to be on the first step.
Well, Greg Murphy, the quickest ever lap around Mount Panorama. How good was that?
Whoa.
He's speechless. He's speechless. Take your helmet off for us. Gather yourself up. Talk us through the lap. What was it like?
Oh, I can't believe that. I don't think I breathed the whole thing. Oh, I thought I'd stuffed it. I made a balls up out of the cutting. I mean, out of the dipper. I actually hooked first instead of third. So I cost myself a couple of tenths. I just can't believe it.
You cost yourself some tenths. You think there's even more in it?
There was more in it. I stuffed up.
Oh, that is remarkable. Rick Kelly is coming up to join you here. A special moment in your career. The Kmart boys, Eric Pender, his engineer, gives him the congratulations. A wonderful moment.
tomorrow, mate. Let's hope you convert it. Fantastic start to the weekend.
Can't believe it. I just can't believe it.
Was there one person's face that you can remember rolling back up pit lane that you're like, wow?
No, I don't think so. I think I was just in such a blur. You know, I was already getting out of the car before it stopped, and you know, it was just like wow, and the aura of the moment, and the energy and everything was just outrageous. I mean, poor old Rick Kelly in the video, he's trying to come up and do that. I'm just sort of I'm not ignoring him, but he's trying to chase me around as I'm going mad, and finally, he's there, and it was huge. It was absolutely huge.
At what point did somebody call it Lap of the Gods?
I actually don't remember. I really don't recall when that came out. I don't know if it was, that weekend or it was the following year, or I really don't know. Did it get? Maybe it got named when it got put up, when someone put it up on the internet or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. Was YouTube around back then?
Well, it's funny you should mention that. It's been up on YouTube for only the 10 years now. And it's Supercars' third most watched video of all time. What is it about that lap that resonates with people and why they love it so much?
I think it's everything about it. I think it's the commentary. I think it's clearly the reaction. It makes people feel good. It's a moment in Supercars history that just resonated. There's lots of key little factors in there that made it what it was. Honestly, it's still humbling today because people want to, they reference it. I think it's still referenced more than 2005 with Marcus, just slightly. But it's
the 5-minute penalty.
It's one of the two that people want to talk about. Yeah, and then there's the one on the other end of it as well. So it was a busy couple of years, wasn't it? Busy 4 years. It was a busy 4 years for various reasons.
The other year you won.
Yeah.
So it was a very busy 4 years.
It was, yeah, exactly right. It was a very busy 4 years for various reasons, good and bad. Yeah.
I think about bands that are, famous for their absolute best song ever, and they never want to play that song at concerts because they should be remembered for so much more.
Yeah.
Do you sometimes feel a little bit like that with Lap of the Gods, like it overshadows all the other great stuff that you achieved?
No, because I think it's probably the greatest thing I've done. So I don't think it. I think it does. As I say, my career, I'm very thankful for it. And as I say, even the negative stuff is really interesting, and all of us that were a part driving in supercars through that 10-year, or that 10-year period, let's say from 2000 through, it was an incredibly powerful time. The rivalry was phenomenal. It was enormous, and. And I was obviously very committed to Holden, and there was plenty of Ford fans that, didn't like us, and that's fine. That was great. At the time, you sort of, you want to throw rocks back at them, but I mean, I feel so privileged to have been part of such an amazing era of the sport. There was lots of money. The manufacturers were tipping in a whole lot of money into the sport, into teams, into drivers. Ford and Holden both. It was an amazing time to be a part of it, and so, the bad stuff was widely followed, and there was plenty of opinion, and there was, there was a Ford versus Holden, and there was, abuse from both sides, but I wouldn't change it for anything. I mean, there's regrets there. The whole 2005 thing with Marcus was. Yeah, definitely regretful. I mean, I've always claimed some responsibility for that, because I think we both had a responsibility, and we're both pig-headed, and neither of us were willing to give, and I certainly wasn't. But it's still talked about. People still bring it up. They still reference it. So. And looking back on it now, it's like, I'm happy to talk about it. Happy to.
It could be a pod into itself one day. I think.
I'm happy for it to be part of the history. Yeah, okay, it was one of those days. It was a race. It was crap for both of us. Whatever, things happen. Other things have happened. But it's definitely part of the supercar history history books.
Did you get anything special from Holden for it? It was back in the era of, amazing manufacturer support. There wasn't like an extra story on your house when you got home.
No, I don't think so. I don't think there was. We were pretty well looked after anyway. I certainly can't complain. It might have been a bonus from my contract with TWR at the time, but there wasn't a new SS Commodore sitting in the driveway when I got back or anything. So
it took 7 years to beat. Craig Lowndes finally got there in a Vodafone Commodore in what?
And if I hadn't missed the goddamn gear, he still wouldn't have done it.
How did you feel when you finally heard that the number had gone?
Well, I'd been expecting it for I've been expecting it for 7 years. It's like it happened that year. So why aren't we going to go faster the following year? Okay, well, it didn't happen. The cars, we kept evolving. The cars kept evolving in bits and pieces. But the track was the track was fresh in 03. Let's be honest about it. The track was fresh. The grip was good. The conditions were great. There was, if you're going to tick all the boxes for what you need to go fast, we had it on that day. Mark Scaife would like to think that I had a special engine, which is absolute bullshit. But that's his excuse why he didn't go faster. But it definitely had long valve springs after that needed to be replaced.
Courtesy of the Dipper.
Yeah.
And I'll compare it to Scott McLaughlin's lap as well and get your thoughts on that, because the big difference for mine was everybody was hoping and expecting to see the 203 pop up when he achieved it. It was also a 0.8, just like yours, but yours had more of an unknown factor to it.
Yeah. Oh, totally unexpected, completely unexpected. It took 7 years, and that's a lot longer than I thought, and it was become bloody annoying, to be honest, because every year we'd turn up and go, "Oh, is your lap going to get beaten? Is your lap going to get beaten?" I'm like, I don't know. I got sick of it. Like, just get on. Someone hurry up and just beat the goddamn thing. And I wished it was me, but it wasn't. And it was just a bizarre thing, It was like, why aren't we beating this thing? Cars are getting better, but track, conditions, all that kind of stuff plays. And then, then Lowndesy goes and does it in a practice session. Sequential gearboxes and all sorts of stuff by that stage.
How long did it take you to go quicker than a 2068 around there?
I don't know if I have ever.
Have you ever gone quicker than that?
I have no idea. It was 2014 is the last time I was there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We'll have to beat it this year. You'd go quicker than a 6.8. Surely you've got that in you.
Better. If I don't, I've definitely made a bad call on going back there. Couldn't tell you. Don't know. Not sure on those ones. I'll have to look back. But it has been a little while, and there was some years there that, let's just say, cars weren't exactly as good as I would have liked.
Yep.
So that might be a bit of a challenge. Might be laying down the challenge. Geez, if I haven't gone faster than that in 19 years, that's a worry.
You peaked.
Yeah. Maybe this is why I'm going back there this year, just to do that.
Didn't even know.
Who knows?
Perfect. Yeah. Well, thank you for turning back the clock and helping us relive one of the most special days in the history of the mountain.
Oh, can we not do it again after this? Can this be the last time? Can this be it?
If you don't go quicker than 206.8, we're going to make you do it again.
We'll come back. Yeah. Good on you. Thanks,
that's your inspiration. Cheers, man.
Thanks for listening to Repco Supercars Rewind. Repco, driven by passion for 100 years. And a huge thanks to Greg Murphy for going into such amazing detail on that incredible lap in October 2003. Well, that's all for today, but we'd love for you to subscribe and share this podcast so we can spread stories just like these to as many fans of this great sport. And remember to keep an ear up for the Supercars post-event podcast, the Cooldown Lap. It's available first thing on a Monday morning after each event. Okay, we'll catch you next time.